my feed was flooded with the most fourth turning shit I have seen in quite some time. Like, astounding. Here's Elon Musk tweeting out just like a few hours ago, time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump. That's crazy. And so how did we get here? What led to this? And funny enough, it was the money that started this, namely the inability to control spending and forever printing. And there was a lot of people chiming in on Elon's comments on the debt and on this bill, talking about, hey, like, listen, man, this is the nature of the system. There's no way around it. There's no way of changing it. You need to opt out. You need to come back to Bitcoin. You need to realize that this is the solution. And so there's some speculation in and around him perhaps beginning to realize that. I know that he definitely wasn't very well versed in the 2021 cycle when he first bought Bitcoin for Tesla and SpaceX and all this, and started accumulating it. And then he later sold some Bitcoin. You know, he had some pretty bad ideas in and around scaling and talking about Dogecoin and all this stuff, some pretty bad takes. But I feel like economically, this is beginning to be more of a wake-up call for him, that you can't fix it from within. You need a secondary system that you can escape to. But Samson, he did tweet out, Elon, it's time to go all in on Bitcoin. Tesla can take Bitcoin for payments again and implement a Bitcoin treasury strategy. SpaceX can give a discount on launches paid in Bitcoin. Force a hard money standard on the money printers. And then he said, at least do it before they freeze all your fiat assets. And yes, absolutely. Who knows? But I kind of want to tease it a little bit here. So here's Brian Armstrong of Coinbase. Delete Coinbase, but he does have
Coinbase.
Yeah, but he does have a point here. He was showing the U.S. national debt year over year from World of Statistics. And he said, if the electorate doesn't hold Congress accountable to reducing the deficit and start paying down the debt, Bitcoin is going to take over as reserve currency. I love Bitcoin, but a strong America is also super important for the world. We need to get our finances under control. And Elon Musk replied with an American flag. Samson Mao said, there will be no deficit reduction, and it cannot be paid down or mitigated through growth. There are only two possibilities now. One, hyperinflate, or two, rebase to Bitcoin. One is passive, the other is proactive. The outcome will be the same. So let's jump back just a couple of days. Elon Musk, I'm sorry, but I can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. And he's talking about the big, beautiful bill that they passed, basically trillions of dollars in excess spending after he just spent months basically gutting all of these government programs, scraping together a few billion here, a few $100 million there, cutting all the ridiculous waste. And it was all undone and overspent by trillions overnight. And like, this bill was passed in the middle of the night. Most people didn't even read it. Nobody even had a clue. And Musk, I would say rightfully so, is saying this is crazy.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FITSCRIPT. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan, nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FITSCRIPT and see what's possible.
And just to kind of point to his previous stances on the U.S. and its debt, this is a clip from 2021. So I just want to play this 1 minute clip of him talking about the budget deficit.
The federal budget deficit is insane. It's like $3 trillion. Federal expenditures are $7 trillion. Federal revenue is $4 trillion. That's a $3 trillion difference in, if this was a company, it'd be a $3 trillion loss. So I don't know if we should be adding to that loss. That seems pretty crazy. Something's got to give. You can't just spend $3 trillion more than you earn every year and expect, don't expect something bad to happen. I think, this is not good. The deficit is more than $3 trillion when you look at the future obligations. So it's $7 trillion of current expenditures, but it's much more than that if you look at future obligations for Social Security, Medicare, and so forth. So we're running this incredible deficit. Something's got to give. I don't know. This can't keep going. The federal budget deficit is.
I mean, he clearly for a number of years has been very concerned about this, and since the shakeup between him and Trump, he's been sharing all these old clips, but also sharing tweets of Trump from back in the day. Also talking about wasteful overspending. Trump saying, "I cannot believe Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am Republican and I am embarrassed." Or, "No member of Congress should be eligible for re-election if our country's budget is not balanced. Deficits not allowed." And him saying this, and then today, or like in the past couple of days here, saying, "I actually agree with Elizabeth Warren. We should get rid of the debt ceiling so that we aren't, so that we don't have anything in our way to just basically spend as much as we please at all times." It's a huge departure from previous messaging, and it makes sense that he would be so upset about it. Let's chat Fourth Turning. Nathan, are you a reader of The Fourth Turning? Familiar?
Oh yes, I'm quite familiar with William Strauss and Neil Howe's work.
Yeah. It's a seminal book. It was written in the 90s. And it basically is an observation of cycles throughout history in humanity, how society ebbs and flows and deals with where they're born in this cycle. The cycle boils down to a trope that goes something along the lines of strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men. And so it continues. And so in the grand scheme of things, the fourth turning, so the fourth turning in that it's the bad times that create the strong men. If you look historically at those cycles, we would be placed in the midst of a fourth turning right now. And the fourth turning is categorized by a number of different qualities. But according to their generational theory, it's a crisis period marked by societal disruption, often involving war or revolution, where institutions are destroyed and rebuilt in response to a perceived threat to survival. It's characterized by a strong sense of danger and a need for collective action. This phase is a pivotal point in the cycle, pushing individuals and societies to confront fundamental questions and forge a new path. So there's a crisis and an upheaval, a perceived threat, institutional breakdown. So trust in institutions dissolves and we begin to break those down and replace them with new ones. There's a lot of conflict and war and uncertainty. There's a shift in values and identity, and there's an emergence of new institutions. And I would argue that the new institution, the strongest of which we're seeing, is Bitcoin. It is a replacement of our Federal Reserve or central banking infrastructure, which allows for the siphoning off of the fruits of people's labor. And we're also seeing, because of the confusion around how that's working and why people are doing worse and worse when we should be doing better and better, people are very uncertain and are beginning to not trust what the TV tells them anymore. And so we're very much seeing a lot of that.
But I do want to say, and it's like a message for the other Bitcoiners out there, is that this is possibly a real opportunity. And I think it's something that's going to be very hard and hurtful for people that are still living in the mindset that we can vote our way out of this. What I like about this, and I'm sorry for those that it would impact necessarily, is that there was no voting our way out. The system itself is what's broken and what's corrupt. It doesn't matter who we put in place there. And this was kind of one of those, like, Trump and his movement essentially was one of those last kind of institutions that I want people to see it basically fail, or to realize that it wasn't what they thought it would, or couldn't accomplish all they could. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy. Like, I was a fan of the guy in 2016. I absolutely love and will not disregard the fact that he freed Ross. Like, that actually happened. That was really, really critical and important. But I want people to stop thinking that they can fix the existing system. And going right back to that fourth turning, we've got to dismantle the old institutions and start rebuilding the new. So for Bitcoiners, if you've got like big Trump fans, friends in these things too, this is an opportunity to go like, hey man, you were absolutely right on the problems, on what has to happen, and we need to make some changes here. But it's not going to be anyone that we put in office. We need to look at rebuilding, scrapping the old, and starting anew.
Yeah. What I wonder is if Elon is alluding to, and that previous tweet with Brian Armstrong, Elon replying here with a U.S. flag to the thing, him saying that Bitcoin is going to take over as the reserve currency if the U.S. can't get their shit together. If that's Elon's thinking and he's beginning to agree with that idea, how does Trump react to that? Because he's been pro Bitcoin, but he's also been pro shitcoin. And I think just in general, he saw it as a mechanism to get votes and a mechanism to enrich himself through, Trump coin and garbage like that. But I've got to imagine if Bitcoin becomes a real threat to the ability to print money and have that money actually worth anything, to be able to buy actual assets and actual resources, that becomes a problem. And I could see Trump doing an about face, and I wonder what that looks like, because again, in a fourth turning, the number one thing, the name of the game is volatility, not just in asset prices, but in society in general, in our institutions being torn down, trust in people and institutions, that all goes out the window. And like in terms of like, if we look at price volatility, I mean, I find this hilarious that like what we just talked about would cause anybody to think I should sell Bitcoin right now. Like it's stupid, but we did see Bitcoin drop a few $1,000 in the past, I don't know, give it a few hours, right? Since like this morning. And I think the important thing here is to realize that when you live in volatile times, people have a hard time placing value on the right assets. And a perfect example of this, another great book to read, is When Money Dies. And it catalogs what happened in Weimar Germany during hyperinflation. And just to show the chart of gold's price during this period in time, this is how volatile it was. Relatively stable up until kind of like the mid-teens. Then it starts going a little bit wild. And during this valuation, the gold price in the Weimar mark, it was whipsawing back and forth, up and down like crazy. So if you were trying to gauge value from the standpoint of the Weimar mark as a measuring stick, you would not be able to actually measure anything. You had to step outside the system to understand what was going on. And I think even though it's not as stark, these types of movements, when people are calling out exorbitant spending, are indications that people don't understand what's going on because their measuring stick is broken. And I think James Lavish said it best here. Good afternoon. If you are selling Bitcoin because the richest man in the world is fighting with the most powerful leader in the world, you have absolutely no idea what you own. Have a great night. I think he couldn't have said it better. And yeah, we need to really appreciate what we own here and be careful with it. So keep stacking those sats regardless of what rich person is calling out what politician. Nothing stops this train.
Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.